Howdy, friends. I forgot to pull the mic a little bit closer, but we're trying to get our game plan together. Um, it's funny, that this topic tonight is about football. Um, I coached high school football for a long time. I had a lot of names, depending on who it was coming from. Sometimes, the parents called me things. Sometimes the players called me things. But most of the time, the people that knew the profession of football uh, talked to me with somewhat dignity. Never had a major confrontation, but so I just want to tell you a couple stories. Like one, I can tell you out a couple parts of this. First story I can tell you, I'm kind of conflicted on the uh, second part of what I want to share. So, matter of fact, I probably won't share all the details, but I'll tell you, y'all would really appreciate it and uh, would would laugh. I mean, like, and I'm not. I don't get on here to, Yes, I do get. It's nice to get views and stuff like that, but I'm not going to sell out someone's reputation to get views or clicks or anything like that. That's just not in my ball game. But anyway, so I've kind of bounced around a little bit when in my travels coaching high school football, and I really loved it. I really loved it. And the one thing I really liked about when I moved to Bath County, Virginia, was we every year we would go to like different football camps. So I remember one year we went to NC State. That was, in my opinion, that was the best camp they put on for high school athletes I've ever seen in my entire life. And I will tell you, the head coach at that time was a guy named Chuck Amato. He was a real big dude, big barrel chested dude, and he was famous for his glasses and sunglasses and stuff like that. But he ran a tight ship, man. He was the man. Like, I kid you not, he was like, I'm gonna tell you that story, and then I'm gonna go to another story, couple stories related, to other football camps. But I will tell you this one story. Um, Chuck Amato was a real big dude. In years since, he had cancer, and he probably lost 100, 150 pounds. I think he's still alive, and but I know he's had some struggles. But he was a colorful individual, man. He was so cool. And the funniest thing is, Chuck Amato, real big dude, like real big barrel chested guy. And when he would talk, he sounded almost like, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. God forbid Chuck Amato ever watch this, but I'm sure it's not the first time he may have heard this, but he kind of had a very soft spoken, squeaky voice. But the way I can, and he always drove around at that time at that football camp, he was driving a yellow Corvette. Kind of funny, right? See this big old dude get out of this yellow Corvette. He had the real fancy contoured sunglasses, and that really made him famous. But due to his reputation, he was able to bring in so much money to that collegiate institution to rebuild their facility and did all kinds of adjustments. So that guy was like, he was a really, really good influence. And in my opinion, he was probably one of the most successful coaches in NCAA football that had been kind of like been given like an injustice, so to speak. Um, so what I'm going to tell you about that is, um, Chuck Amato, when he would speak, I'm going to use a reference here. I hope it's not out of line um, but basically, like I'll never forget this. I've never seen somebody command so much presence. We probably had, when I say we, like all the schools combined at this football camp at NC State, I would say there was, if I had to guess, 1,000 football players. I don't know how many actually were attending, but Chuck Amato walks out there, right? Chuck Amato's a big dude, and he has this weird presence about him. I don't know if anybody is closer to my age, but there was an old commercial many years ago. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. No, that's 100% Chuck Amato. Chuck Amato was a really cool dude. But so he gets up in front of all these kids of I would say, when I say in front of all these kids, a lot of them were different race than he was. He gets up there, he's real soft spoken, real squeaky. But it was like, I kid you not, I've watched so many videos about like John Gotti and the Mafia and stuff like that. And John Gotti kind of had that presence. Chuck Amato also had that presence that when he spoke, people just listen, right? So I'm not saying they're correlated like as far as crime, or I'm not saying that, but sometimes people just command a presence. Like when they're in front of you, everybody shuts up and listens. And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Chuck Amato gets up there, and he's kind of just standing there for a second, and then he just basically waits for everybody to shut up. And it didn't take too long because he had this like weird look about him and everything. And he was a big dude, not real tall, but like big barrel chested guy. And then he starts telling all these stories, what to do, how to conduct yourself, and using examples. And he was really comical, not trying to be comical. He was just himself as far as um, expressing, his beliefs, on how to treat life and football and how to be respectful and stuff like that. So now I'm going to go on to, there's another part of that camp I really want to share, but I just can't do it. I have too much respect for Coach Amato, so I'm not going to do that. But I really love that guy. It was so cool. We actually one day went on under. I was underneath the pavilion where they had like the Gatorade and the water containers, and I was getting a drink, and he says he was like, it just blew my mind, like out of the blue. I didn't even realize Chuck Amato was there. He's like, hey coach, he goes, if you need anything, hit me up, let me know what you need. And I was just dumbfounded because this guy is like a football coaching legend, in my opinion, because of the things he has done. So let me tell you what happened. I would say a year or two after that, I can't remember exactly the time sequence because it's been a while. I would say this was in I forget the exact time period. I'm just going to guesstimate right now, mid 90s. But no, actually, it's probably later. It's probably like late 90s or early 20s. Now I think about it. Oh, I'm so confused right now. But anyway, Chuck Amato was a really good defensive-minded football coach. I remember this one year he had 4 of his defensive linemen all get drafted in the NFL draft. If I remember correctly, I think three of them went in the first round, and one went in the second round or something like that. But I know that he had like really great success teaching his skilled position, but also being a head coach. And A lot of people do not remember this, but I'm going to refresh people's memory. But this actually, if you guys want to do some research and really want to, pinpoint the dates, Eli Manning was drafted by the San Diego Chargers, I do believe, and he kind of like refused to play for them for his specific beliefs. A guy named Philip Rivers, who had been the quarterback at NC State, also played under Chuck Amato. So Chuck Amato really produced a lot of NFL products and really did very well. But because of his success, it also led to his demise because he produced so much high quality so rapidly that, in the coming years, it was kind of hard to keep up the rotation of, high quality players, especially on the defensive line and stuff like that. So, but as far as now, I will tell you, one of the things I loved about what Chuck Amato did at that NC State football camp is it was really cool. The way they had this structure, this was definitely the best NCAA football camp I've ever attended. When I say NCAA, they bring in different football players from all around, the country. You're welcome to come from all over, even all over the world. I don't think a lot of people do that though. But the way the reason, first of all, I want to tell you, the reason they do that is because they're evaluating future talent. That's basically the main reason. They also do it because they gain a little bit of income. It's not much. I mean, it's not really much, but they do get like PR and exposure and stuff like that. So literally if I had to guess, out of 1,000 people that showed up at that camp that one year I was there with Chuck Amato, there was probably maybe 5. I don't know. I'm not a very good estimator on that, but probably 5 serious people that they were recruiting. But it gives them an opportunity to see their skills. So this is how the morning would work. I forget the exact times in the morning, but basically from, let's say, 8 a.m. to 10 or 10:30 or 11, your high school team, your little 7-on-7 group, whatever, your high school coaches and staff are coaching them. Then what happens is, I'm trying to remember. Oh, no, I may have that backwards. It doesn't matter because it's the same. It's going to balance out in the end. No, I think I have that wrong. So I think in the morning, what they did was the position coaches from NC State would coach all the different high schools based on like their skill positions, like it'd be running backs, defensive backs, or wide receivers, quarterbacks, whatever. So they would all be broken up into different groups to be kind of educated on better technique and stuff like that related to football. So that was really cool to see. That was really cool to see because there was a guy down there. Some people like this guy. Some people don't like this guy. I love this guy. There's a guy named Manny Diaz, Coach Manny Diaz. He was just pretty much a young up and coming coach at that time, and he was coaching defensive backs. And I watched a lot because I did like at that time with that school I was representing in Bath County, Virginia. I was kind of like, we had a small staff, so sometimes you had to go offense and defense, stuff like that. So I kind of like was following the receivers and also the defensive backs. Manny Diaz is, I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That dude's a badass coach. I don't care about his success record. He's had great success on many levels. He was the defensive coordinator last year at Penn State. He did not have a tremendous record at the University of Miami. Sometimes it's like there's many factors involved, but it was really cool. So now in the morning you're going through the personal sessions through the college coaches. In the afternoon, I think it was like right after lunch, uh, we would the high school coaches would coach up their own team, prepare them for their 7-on-7 drills that they would go against other schools. It was like a big competition, round robin type deal. And then at night, there would be the 7-on-7 competition. So that was really, really cool. And that was very, very educational, very, very informative, and just extremely, oh my gosh, so productive. But so now I'm going to move on to I'm going to talk to you about another camp, a little bit of different scenario, but I did truly enjoy it. So I think it was the next year. I forget which one came first. I think the next year we went to West Virginia University, and at that time there was a football coach there. He had pretty much, I think he'd only been there a year or maybe two. Guy named Rich Rodriguez, really good football coach, very intense individual, and he had some good athletes there. He had a really good college quarterback, a guy came out of, I'm trying to remember if he came out of Virginia or West Virginia, but a guy named Pat White. Pat White was like really good athlete, really good athlete, and so we go to this this camp, and we're at that camp was different. This is not a knock on Coach Rich Rodriguez or anything, but it was different than what Coach Chuck Amato did. So basically, when we went to this camp at West Virginia University, at that time it was just 7-on-7 camps. It's like coaches are just invited to be out there, and they're just it's all 7-on-7 competition against other schools, and that can be really helpful too. It's all how you evaluate it, but that also gives those coaches from that institution, West Virginia University, opportunity to evaluate talent. So that probably gives that, in a way, it probably helps them more to evaluate future upcoming local talent. So I can understand why they would do that. But Rich Rodriguez was a very, very commanding presence as well. And he was a pretty big dude. I think he was 6'4" or something like that. I think he played safety at Clemson, if I remember right. But I know he was kind of like a good looking guy, don't take that the wrong way. But he just like, when he walked in the room, he's another guy that kind of was like a commanding presence. So I'll never forget. I'm at we're having lunch one day, and there was I wasn't even really palling around with my own coaches. Like, for whatever reason, we just kind of like went our own separate ways. Some people were calling their wives or whatever. So I'll never forget. I sat down in this big round table. It probably sat about 8 to 10 people, and I was there, different coaches from different areas, and I'm just really just an assistant coach, and there were some head coaches just sitting there at the table, and I think there was another the guy that replaced Rich Rodriguez. I could see his face. I can't remember his name. I think he eventually, not long after he became head coach, I think he died of a heart attack. But it was crazy. Coach Rodriguez sits down, just like, "Hey, coaches, how's everybody?" And he just hung out like a regular dude, just to talk to us, just shooting the breeze, And what that really impressed me, because I realized, like, his mentality, my mentality, and a lot of coaches' mentality is, when you're on the football field or the practice field, it's all work. But when you're off the field, you can be a regular dude and just chill out, And so he was just pretty much just chilling with everybody. You guys enjoying your lunch? If you need anything, let me know. And it wasn't like a meet and greet where he got up and left. No, Rich Rodriguez was a really cool dude, because he hung out with us. And like, he probably spent a good hour with us the entire time at that table. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm looking around and I'm thinking like, wow, this is special. Like, and at the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish the other coaches could see like me and Rich were hanging out. I pretty much I didn't really say a whole lot at that time, but I remember talking to Chuck Amato at NC State. But uh, when Rich Rodriguez was there, he was hanging out with us just as a regular dude, just being one of the guys. That really impressed me. So now I'm going to tell you another part of this part. This is funny. I forget what happened first, but this was the same camp at West Virginia University, and I'm watching some 7-on-7 games in between our 7-on-7 games. So I'm on the sideline, just 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 watching these two random schools I know nothing about, just trying to watch the performance of the players, and just pretty much trying to learn and educate myself, and more about the sport of football. And there was a guy standing next to me to my left, and he says something to me. I don't remember what he said, but it was like it was nothing negative. Please don't misunderstand that. But it was it was just kind of like general chit chat. He said like look at number 7, or I don't remember what he said, but so we kind of start talking back and forth, and he called me coach once or twice, and I didn't I really, like, in my mind I'm thinking like this guy kind of looks familiar, but he had sunglasses on. And it was so funny. Later, I go back to wherever, most of our coaches and stuff were just hanging out and chilling, like in lawn chairs and just basically relaxing, some downtime. And the head football coach said to me, he goes, "Hey, do you have any idea who you were talking to?" I said, "No, he kind of looked familiar, but I honestly don't know who it was, but he definitely looked familiar." He goes, "Well, you've been talking with Jeff Hostetler, Super Bowl MVP of the New York Giants," or something like that. So I'm like, "Oh crap!" I'm like, you know, I'm not one of those dudes that go, I've never been like an autograph seeker. I would have never done that, even if I had known when the guy was talking to me who it was. I would have never, like. I just believe in their respecting their privacy, their if he's talking to me just like a regular dude, that's what we're going to be, just regular dudes. But that was kind of cool, like in a way, and so that was really interesting. And anybody who doesn't know anything about Jeff Hostetler, I'm trying to remember. I always screw this up. Jeff Hostetler married the daughter of one of the great West Virginia University football coaches. And I want to say Johnny Majors, but I think I may have that screwed up. I forget who the other famous West Virginia University football coach was, but he ended up marrying the coach's daughter, and so that's how he had his affiliation to Morgantown, West Virginia. And so that was really kind of cool to know and kind of feel a part of. I don't believe in being like a Klingon attaching to famous people, but it was kind of cool because when you respect people who have always conducted themselves with professionalism and especially being good role models to the youth, I really, I did cherish those moments. So anyway, folks, in my opinion, football is probably one of I would say two sports. I'm going to clarify this. I think there's two. No, I got to re-clarify this. 3 sports. I think there's 3 sports that really can help uh, develop discipline in young men, and nowadays it's young men and ladies. But I definitely believe football teaches uh, teamwork, discipline. It's a very difficult sport, but it's very much a team-oriented sport. Then there's wrestling, like real wrestling, not WWE type nonsense or whatever. But that is more like an individual type sport. That is tremendously difficult and very demanding, and teaches you a lot of discipline and respect for uh, what you need to accomplish. And the other sport I would say would be gymnastics. I think gymnastics is another one that's highly demanding. What those athletes have to go through on a daily basis is very, very demanding. So I would say all three of those sports. And then there's, you can get off on a tangent, like say, well, ice hockey or whatever. But those are the ones, in my opinion, the top three that are very demanding. And the coolest thing about that is those people in general, when they move on later in life, they know how to handle adversity. They're not intimidated. They know how to handle confrontations and stuff like that. When I say confrontations, it could be like financial confrontations or what have you. But those sports teach you a lot of discipline and mental focus. So that's what I'm going to leave with this message today. It's very important to teach our youth, coming up, through society, to understand mental focus. That's it. I think I've said enough, and I'm gonna get off this platform. Thanks for listening.